Hello friends, welcome to my channel, a channel for learning simple coding. If you find this video to be helpful, please like, share and subscribe my channel. In this fifth class of learning Next.js, we are going to learn the most important part of any web application is called events and events handling. So we will learn in this video how React event handling we implement in Next.js. There are so many interview questions those ask on that situation in event handling, so I have written here. First one is what is event handler, how event handlers are different from functions, how to call event handlers in Next.js, how to pass parameter in event handler itself in Next.js, how to pass event handler as a props in Next.js. Means all the questions 100% coverage of event handling in Next.js I'm going to cover in this video. Let's take first question and I give the answer of first question, then I give the answer of second question, and third question we will take as a practical. So first question is what is event? So in web page there are so many events like click, on load, on reset, on change, on click, on double click, on mouse move. There are so many events are there. Those are part of document object model of JavaScript. So what is this event? Event is an action, remember, that trigger some code on your website. So it's an action that trigger some code. It executes some JavaScript code. Remember that code is executed by the event handler. Event handler means when suppose I click on a button, so that click is an event, but this event will execute some events. Those events means you will write some code and that code will execute on the basis of that click. So that code we are writing within a function, that function is called event handler. Remember that you click on a button, on click is an event, that means is an action that going to be execute your code, the trigger your code, but the code is written in a event handler. That event handler is a function that execute your code. Remember that. So event means on click, event handler means the function that execute your code. Now question rise, how event handlers are different from functions? They are just look like a same as a function, because without function you can't do anything in JavaScript, but the way of calling, the way of treating this function is different. I will show you in a practical way, then I will show you how to call event handler. So right now two questions I have given, the what is event, what is event handler. So events are set of actions, those are predefined in JavaScript like click, on click, mouse move, mouse over, like this. So these events are actions that performs or trigger some code in your web application. That code is executed with the help of functions. Those functions is called event handler. So we take practically now. So I have this same application which I have used earlier, and I just execute this. So I say npm run dev. So while it execute, we make some modification and we create one component also for making event handling in Next.js. For that I create one more component here, and it's a very simple name. I say change name JSX. So I create this component change name and I say RAFCE, and I have this component here. So I make it capital also because mostly components are in capital letter. So I say change name, and here I create this component and I use this component in page component itself. So for that I make a comment of all the previous code which I have written so far. So I make it comment and save. Now within a main tag I use my change name component like this, and you will see that in browser I click on a link and I execute this. So you see we have a change name here. So now we learn event handling with this example. So we have inserted this component change name here. So first of all, I tell you that what is the difference between variable and a state variable here. So here I take one variable and I say name, and here I put the name Dr. Vipin classes. Remember that this name I am taking and I want to change this name to Vipin, Dr. Vipin Tevatia on the click of a button. So how it will be, I am just showing you here. So here I say inside h2 tag I pass name, and I will show you that it would not change first time because it's a normal variable, and in React also there is no chance to update a normal variable. So I give you the understanding here that what is the difference between normal variable and a state variable. Now I create one button here and I say on click. Remember that on click is an event, and I'm passing here event handler. So I say change ch name is a function that I'm going to create here, and I say change my name like this. So I create this function here. I say const ch name. Remember arrow function I am creating, and this function will change name. So I say name equal to Dr. Vipin Tevatia. Remember all things. This is a variable which have Vipin class, Dr. Vipin classes. Then on click of this we are executing this function. Remember this function is called event handler. This function is called event handler, and I just give a question that what is the difference between function and event handler. You see, if it is a function, we call function like this, but we are not calling it like a function, we calling it like a event handler. You see, so I am passing it without a parenthesis. That's why I given a question here. Now question, what is event? So on click is an event. It's among the number of events available in JavaScript. Event handler, this change name ch name function is called event handler. And difference between function and event handler, you see that event handler and function, there is a difference between calling. This is a function, but it behaving like a event handler because we are calling it like a event handler. We are not calling it like a method or a function. If we put parenthesis, then we call a function, but if we are not putting a parenthesis, then we calling it as a event handler. Remember that. Now if I go to the here, you see it's saying that this should be a client component. So in the Next.js, the first line should be that we have to mention that it's a client component. Remember that. So use client we have to pass here because it is executing on client, and you see that we have this, and you see that this button is not looking like a button because of some predefined sets of CSS is inserted here. So I am removing these preset of in CSS, and in next video I will tell you how to use bootstrap with proper event handling of JavaScript in Next.js. So meanwhile I am just removing this, no need of this file. You see after deleting this we have the proper white screen and proper button of this change my name. Remember that when I click here, so event is executing and we are changing a name also, but I tell you here, I open console here and I show you that name is changing but it's not reflecting on a screen. So what I do here, I say console.log name. So I tell you that it is changing but it not reflecting on a screen. So I run this, you see Dr. Vipin Tevatia, the name is changing of this. You see, if you see this, so name is changing in a console window. If you go, so name is changed to Dr. Vipin Tevatia in place of Dr. Vipin classes, but it not displaying here because at a runtime only state variable can show their value, cannot be shown by the normal variable. So I close this right now. And now how to change this, I tell you here. For that I have to create a state variable. For creating a state variable, what we have to do, I say const I say name, set name and use state, and here I pass Dr. Vipin classes. Same, remember? And I just remove this, save this. Now this name we can't change directly like this. We have to say set name, and here I say Dr. Vipin like this. Save this. You see that on click of this button we are calling this event handler, and event handler will execute this set name function here, and this function is going to change the value of this name which is already Dr. Vipin classes, and we are displaying this here also. You see that now if I click on button, the value is changed, remember? And if I show you here in console also, and you will see that console also, go to console and I refresh once again. I click here and you see that we have changed the name to Dr. Vipin. That was earlier was Dr. Vipin classes. So like this way we can use event handling in Next.js. Remember that we have given the answer of these three questions, these four questions. First is what is event? I have given the answer. What is event handler? This method is an event handler. Difference between event handler and function. In calling we have a difference. You see, when we are calling this event we are not passing a parenthesis, otherwise both are same. Then how to call event handler? How to call event handler in Next.js? Same as we do in React, you see, like this. Now question rise, fifth question, how to pass parameter in event handler? Remember that if some stage, suppose I want to pass a name here, this name I want to pass on runtime. Suppose this is a name, I say new name that I want to change. That name I want to display here. Remember, this name I want to change, and I remove the log also. No need to show log because we know that is a state variable and it will show, it will change the value. So this name I am passing here, but here if I call it like this, remember, and I say Dr. Vipin Tevatia, then it will show error. You see there are so many rendering problem is occurring. So it is not a way to call event handler. Remember, it's now behaving like a function. So event handler always call without passing this parenthesis. So now what we do, we will call this event handler when we are passing a parameter inside arrow function. So here I need to call arrow function like this. I'm creating an arrow function here, remember that, and this arrow function is like this. Arrow function we have like this, you see. So I am creating an arrow function here, I am not calling this arrow function, remember that. So now this arrow function is a event handler, and inside this event handler I am calling a normal function, and we am passing here the parameter. Remember that now this ch name is not working as a event handler. Now in this stage it is a normal function. This arrow function which I am creating here inside on click, that arrow function is a event handler. Remember that now it's a event handler. This arrow function is the event handler. So I'm creating here this event handler is calling this function. Remember here I given a question here, how to pass parameter in event handler itself in Next.js. It looking like that we are passing a parameter to the event handler because both function and event handler are same, just the calling is different. Right now I am passing a parameter this function. It look like that it is an event handler, but inside in actual way this arrow function is a event handler and we are calling it inside as a function. So right now it is not behaving like a event handler, it is behaving like a method. So it's depend on the way of calling. If I am calling with parenthesis, then it become function. If I am calling without a parenthesis, that it will become an event handler. Remember this, it's a very important point. So now I see that how we see this on the screen. So this is the Dr. Vipin classes. I click here and you see name is changed. Same type of response we will get, but now we are passing this as a parameter to this function, and event handler we are using as arrow function. So remember that we can't pass parameter to this event handler, because if we pass it, it will be call, and if it will call, it would not be a event handler. Event handler means when you click, then it will call automatically. So it click, when we click, then arrow function, this arrow function, that is itself an event handler, it called on click and it call inside this function as a parameter. Remember this. Now we are on the last question, how to pass event handler as props in Next.js. For giving an answer of this last question, how to pass event handler as a props in Next.js, I need to create a new component, and then I need to pass the event as a props to that component. So for that, I want to shift this button, from here to the new component. So for that, I create a new component. I say my button, remember that, my button dot jsx, and I say RAFCE, and the button coding I do inside this. So I just cut this from here, remember. So I cut it from here and I paste it inside this div tag. Save this, remember, and try to understand that this button is a separate component, other component, you see, and this event handling is not like a normal event handling. Now I tell you how. Here we have the state variable, here we have a event handler, we are changing a name on a click, but button is not here, so we have to pass this event as a props to this component. So first of all, I call this component here, I say my button like this, remember. So I call it, and if you will see that look like is same, I refresh it, you see look like is same. Why? Because it's separate component, but if I click here, the value would not change. We have an error because this event handler change name is not available in this component, remember that. So I am passing it as a props from this to this. So I say here, I give name, here I can give any name, so I say on press, remember that I am creating my on event, I say on press, and here I want to pass the ch name, remember this I am passing as a event, this event ch name I am passing here as a props. So see this question, how to pass event handler as a props in Next.js. So I am passing this ch as a event handler. This is a event handler right now, it is not a function because I am calling it without a parenthesis. Now on press is an event that I have given to this my component. So here I goes and I have a props like this. In React we have a props as a parameter, and this props will execute this. So and I have to pass the name also. So remember that this function I will call props dot change name, remember, because this change name is executing here, this change name is going here as a props, and in this props I am executing it as a function, remember. So it is now a function, and this arrow function is a event handler, same concept, but this is available under the props because we are passing it as a props to this. So this is on press, remember that I can't call it with ch name because ch name is a event handler. On press is a event handler for this props. So in place of ch, here I have to call on press. On press, remember that on press I have to call this, and under this on press I have to pass the value because here I have created the on press as my property that have this as a function. So I am executing it and I am passing this value, and if you see that if I click here, you see name is changed. So now you see that we are passing a event handler as a props, and we are making this props as a function here, and we are going to change the name, and this is arrow function and it behaving like a event handler to change the name. So you see that all the 6 questions I have covered in this video in very detailed way. I have explained each and every aspect of event and event handling in Next.js in the reference of React also. That's all in this video. If you like it, please do subscribe. Thank you for watching this video.